Hello and welcome to another episode of Streamlit Live. I'm your host, Tony Kipkimboy, and I work on developer relations for Streamlit at Snowflake. Streamlit Live is a twice monthly live interview show where we interview folks in the Streamlit community and learn more about what they're building. We have an awesome episode for you today focused on how to develop enterprise-ready Streamlit chatbots using Cohere's command model. I'm really excited today to be joined by Sandra Kublik, who is a DevRel at Cohere.
Thank you for having me. Stoked to be here.
All right, awesome. Glad to have you on today. So this is really interesting to be able to finally meet you in person or e-meet you. I've seen your work a lot online, so glad to meet you today. And so with that, before we even kind of jump straight into the main topic of today, which is a very interesting as well topic to talk about, I want to get to talk about your background a little bit and maybe some of our audience here to get to know you a little bit more, your journey as well. So I'll kind of run through your journey based on the research I've done on you. You'll let me know if I did a good job. But so you've had a very diverse career path, not a very linear path. It's been traditional path, to be kind of precise as well. So you graduated from University of Warsaw with a liberal arts degree, and you've also done a bunch of entrepreneurship activities for yourself as well. You've been a co-founder of LabLab AI. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that. You've also been a machine learning advocate at Neptune.ai. And to add on top of that, currently you're a DevRel at Cohere, which is really cool. And to kind of continue on the thread of your entrepreneurship exploits here, you're an author. You wrote a GPT-3 book, and this was back when everything was kind of kicking off. And you're a podcaster and you're a YouTuber as well, AI YouTuber to be specific. So let me know if I left anything out there, and also fill in maybe some parts for here for our audience to get to know you a little bit more. Maybe things that might not be obvious or things that you don't usually include in a resume.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great summary. I think if anything, it shows that I'm a bit ADD and I like to switch between things and learn in between different domains. So liberal arts as a degree was perfect for me because I could kind of just like touch on a bunch of different disciplines and then go a little bit deeper. And while I was at university, I kind of quickly realized that I want to do things that are kind of create things that are out there. So having my own projects was always like the choice. While I've been setting up hackathon community that is now LabLab, it used to be Deep Learning Labs. Actually, I'm so old. They rebranded by now, and
Nice.
I'm super happy to see how they're growing. If you haven't checked them, they are basically testing different latest LLMs and other multimodal models, giving you access to them so you can hack and learn in a cool kind of competitive environment. Yeah, so I started with that, and that was my entry to AI, I would say. And then from there, I discovered GPT-3. That was like roughly 3 years ago. And the rest for me is history. I've been down the rabbit hole of LLMs ever since and just trying to learn as much as I can, basically, since then. My latest passion is the podcast. So it's called just Sandra Kublik Podcast. And I interviewed their folks, especially ladies in the LLM space that are experts from different angles. So it could be a product expert in chat interfaces, it could be safety expert, it could be a community leader. Yeah, I'm really interested in learning through conversations with them because this ecosystem is very dynamic. So it's really good to, poke people's brains about it and
Yes.
learn things otherwise you wouldn't learn just by cursing through the internet yourself. Yeah.
Pretty cool. And I think I'll throw it back to you on that last statement that you made with getting to talk to other people. And then you end up learning a lot by just talking to them. So this is another way for me. I'm learning a lot from you in this process. So this is really cool. And it's also very cool to see how you've kind of progressed. You've ended up building your career through trying different things and being able to experiment with so many things to take you where you are today. And giving back by producing content and interviewing folks so that other people can learn from. I think that's really cool. So with that said, we definitely want to kind of jump straight into the big thing, the big conversation today, which is Cohere. And we're here to learn about it today. And maybe some people in the audience might not even be aware of what Cohere is. Maybe they're hearing it for the first time. What's kind of your intro of Cohere? What is Cohere?
Yeah, well, you should know Cohere if you haven't come across it yet. So let me tell you. So basically, what we do is we develop LLMs. We're one of these foundation model companies that train LLMs and then kind of distribute them via our platform, API, via our cloud partners. We design models with enterprise clients in mind. And that means we provide a lot of customization options. We make sure that the models are being trained with responsible AI framework, that they are secure, that you have plenty of options when it comes to deployment. Yeah, so I would say that's like a rough description of what we do. And we work on two types of models. We
Okay.
focus exclusively on text modality, but our models interact with multimodal data. As an example, our text generation model can interact with documents that have multiple modalities, text, visuals on it, and can reference them successfully and kind of process them successfully. But we primarily focus on text and kind of try to really perfect that area. The two types that we work on is text generation models. So that will be Command that you've
Okay.
mentioned already.
Yes.
And it comes with different variants. You can have like a super robust version, it's the base kind of command. You can have a light version that's faster, cheaper, I think significantly. And then there's nightly that we use to train our model overnight. And every single day you get a new version based off of the interactions that the model has. On top of that, we also have the text representation models. So these models are a little bit less intuitive for people typically. We can talk about them later on, but essentially what they do is they translate words into numeric representations that machine can understand and start manipulating with. And so here we have two flagship models. They're state of the art when it comes to the market landscape. One of them is Embed, the other is rerank, and they come in English and multilingual versions. So we also cover a lot of other languages than English. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up when it comes to like a super brief intro, but I'm happy to dive more into different aspects during our convo today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good introduction to Cohere. And if anybody in the audience maybe didn't know or they thought they knew, now they know more. And I'm excited to kind of dive deeper into some of the stuff that you mentioned here after we go through the demo. And of course, like we always do, we have a demo, and we'll go through some demos. And before that, I understand, and also on the Streamlit side, we're very happy to learn, of course, that Cohere are power users of Streamlit, and you folks at Cohere, you use it for demo purposes and also prototyping, and even beyond that, the Cohere community, you guys host hackathons. People get to build cool stuff with Streamlit and Cohere. So I don't know if you have any of this that you want to show us today during the demo, but this would be very cool to kind of jump into that and see some of those cool applications here.
Yes, that's amazing. So that's my favorite part. So I want to preface it by saying that we're mad fans of Streamlit as a prototyping framework primarily. I can tell you that when I joined Cohere, roughly 2 years ago, we were having these monthly sessions called internal sessions called cool demos. And we've been using Streamlit to for individual folks that were coming up with ideas to kind of build something quickly and show to others, just to explore the extent of possibilities with the models. Because the beautiful thing about LLMs is that, and it keeps being true, having been in this field for 3 years, that you keep learning more and more about what's possible with them. They are becoming more and more powerful, so you actually can explore these different capabilities and form new ideas. And also it can even shape to some extent the way we think about the product. So it's been very, very powerful to use Streamlit internally. And then once we started hosting community hackathons, it was also the go-to tool that we recommended for folks to check out. So I've prepared a bunch of projects today. I want to briefly kind of gloss over the hackathon demos that were the most recent, just to show you the extent of capabilities, and then talk about the older demos that I found that also show like kind of how far back our history with Streamlit is actually there, and show you how our product changed and is reflected in those demos. So yeah. Actually, before we go into the demos section, I wanted to share with you super exciting news that our new version of Command R is already out there. It's optimized for long context tasks such as RAG, and using external tools like APIs, calculators, web searches, and so forth. And it's designed to work together with Embed and rerank to make the most of the RAG experience for enterprises out there. So super thrilled to share that with you today. Make sure to go and check it out. If you're interested in the weights, you can also check out Hugging Face for research and evaluation information we dropped there if you are into that. And without further ado, let's move on to the section with the demos. And so this comes from one of these like cool demo sessions that we had internally. This one is done by Adrian Morrison, my colleague at Cohere. He works on our embeddings, but he also is a very creative folk, and he likes to make especially like just fun projects, for the purpose of fun. So this is our co-founder, Ivan Tsang. He's known for being really good with coming up with different affirmations. When you're building large language models, things don't go smooth always. And you need to keep the positive frame of mind to persevere in the most difficult moments. So Ivan is phenomenal at this. And so what Adrian did was scrape all the affirmations that Ivan has come up with in the past that were available on our Slack channel. And then he trained our command model to come up with new affirmations that would sound like Ivan has come up with them. So yeah, let's ask him for some if you're going to do it, do it now. There's no better time than the present.
All right.
In the world of copycats, be an original. Yeah, things like that, So this is like, yeah. So that's like a perfect example of what Ivan would say, and this is like unique generation of an affirmation based off of his basically personality and his previous chat history. So we are able to see kind of replicate what the Ivan factor in this app.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. I wonder how much data that was there already. How many affirmations he was already writing. Was it a big data set or?
No, it wasn't. So it wasn't like a fine-tuning situation whatsoever. It was just like a bunch of few examples in the bigger prompt. Here's another application that basically scans different NDAs, and you can ask it about whether something is, like what kind of clauses are in a given NDA. This one is actually, I want to try it out. So let me just find my API key, which you, by the way, should not leak. Never, don't do that. If you leak an API key, you should probably block it immediately. But yeah, for the purpose of the demo, let me do that.
Cool.
Okay. So I don't have any NDA on my hands right now, so that's why I'm gonna go with their example. So here we can see RAG document upload mode in action. Let me just pull up this. Oh yeah. So what they reference is Bosch Automotive Service Solutions Mutual NDA. And now we can ask it questions, or we can choose suggestions based on the options provided here. I honestly don't know much about law, but we can go for limited use and see what it says. Okay. And you can also come up with a question, Tony, if you want, so we can ask it.
Yeah, if I know some law, I think those preset ones are pretty good to start off. I probably would ask it something very random.
Same here.
Maybe,
yeah.
Am I able to? Can I talk about any of this with anybody, or something very generic as well?
Yeah, exactly. It will be interesting to check whether it works on kind of like casual language as well and translates the contract language. We're gonna check in a second. Okay, so it's running. Yeah, but essentially what you will see in a second, hopefully, is contract with, yes. So first of all, you have a short version of the answer here, limited use, and then kind of what this clause is about, what other clause there that is relevant to limited use is there, and what it means. It kind of describes, it's a really nice kind of assistant when it comes to reading legal documents, and in this case, NDAs. You can also see here, it highlights the relevant clauses in the contract itself, so you can cross-check whether model hallucinated anything. Hopefully not. In this case, not. So kind of that's the beauty of RAG, that it's able to connect with these documents that you give it, pull out the relevant fragment, and then do some reasoning on top of it. Yeah, so what was your question? Example question,
I think
that we can give it?
Yeah, example question, just a random question would be, what am I not allowed to talk about in this contract?
Okay.
I would think that would be very generic, and see if you can get any context into that one.
Yes, let's see.
So I think one thing that kind of stands out for me here as well, that I find that I really enjoy, is the fact that it goes and grabs the context from the document, and it also kind of gives you a reference where you're just like, hey, here's a citation that you can go confirm yourself, so you know that I'm not hallucinating. So I find that really cool as well.
Yes, that's really useful. And what I love about Streamlit is that it was so easy for them to just kind of replicate the document upload mode in your system, where you can just drag and drop it here with a simple button. It's like it's such an easy way to visualize it for people, and very intuitive as well. So yeah. Okay, so we have an answer. Okay, so there's information about what constitutes confidential information.
Okay.
And it suggests that you should carefully review these clauses to understand what you're allowed and not allowed to talk about. We can click on it to go there.
Yeah. Oh no. the law, it's always very there's a lot of nuance.
Yeah,
Can't
it's
confirm nor deny.
yes, it's tricky. Yeah, so basically it's talking about this paragraph, right? To like you make sure to review it and make sure that it's understandable for you. And if it's not understandable, you can keep asking questions about it. So yeah, that's kind of the setup here. Okay, I think we can go further. So now I want to show you things that are kind of an archive, like a tiny archive of what we've done internally and then eventually shared externally. So Conversant is this sandbox repository on our GitHub that is open source, so you can fork it, you can build on top of it and add new capabilities as our models expand. But what's cool about it is that it actually was created before our chat endpoint started to exist. So you can see how Streamlit helped us kind of think through, the chat use case and having a conversational flow with the model before we decided to make a product decision about, okay, this should be an endpoint and this should be like a default interaction style for our generative model. So this is basically like a screenshot of our decision making in the product. So
Nice.
it doesn't have RAG features, but it has really nice screenshot of how we were thinking about chat. So you can choose a chatbot persona. In this case, I chose a math teacher, and now we can edit the prompt where it starts with a preamble. You always set the tone for the conversation. You explain to the model what the conversation is going to be about and between who and kind of how the flow should look like. You can also, so here I have a student, but I can also add, another math teacher.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to go really abstract in our conversation.
Increase the complexity.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about it. Whoops, where is it? What's your favorite number? Okay, that's very random, but
Yeah.
pi is a p is a very typical answer to that. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, is this what math teachers talk about in a break room? Just tell me if the right number. But
I would imagine, yes, that's why I tried to impersonate the
yes,
other math teacher curiosity.
absolutely. Could we maybe tell her to give us like a simple example of a math proof, and see if what it takes about that?
Always add please at the end. You
They'll
never
come after
know.
me.
Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't give you a proof, but it kind of defines it.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example proof? I can prove that there is even. Okay.
All right.
It's
Fair
very
enough.
tricky. Yeah,
Yeah.
so essentially you have different personas and they differ in the sense of in the prompt you have a different preamble where that defines what the conversation is about and between which parties, and you can edit that. So that's kind of like that's a good foundation for our chat endpoint later on, because also in that chat endpoint you are going to define the preamble and have the and be able to have a conversation with the user the way you define it. So that's another one.
Yeah, that was some pretty interesting demos that you showed us there. So thank you for taking us through that. And I think to dig deeper a little bit more into, we've seen the demos, we see how they do, how they perform, but to just kind of get know a bit more about what's under the hood in terms of command model. And I know most of the Cohere models are kind of geared towards enterprises, which is I know some developers can also do the same thing, but it's mostly geared towards developer enterprises. And you mentioned one thing earlier before. You mentioned that the models kind of every night they get improved. So based on the conversation you had, is that tailored towards specific user? Like it gets improved based on your experience, or is it everybody that's using that same model gets improved based on that every night?
Yeah, so it depends. We have different deployment modes. And in terms of the command nightly, the latest version, the version that changes overnight is accessible via our playground and via our API. So if you're one of the cloud partners, you will, and no, if you're accessing the model via one of the cloud partners, we are cloud partner agnostic. So we are on all cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, etc., etc. And you will get kind of like a frozen version of command that's like the latest, the best version, the most stable one that we are ready to ship to you in the enterprise context. So that this is how we kind of keep it stable for the clients. But if you're more on the if you want to experiment with the latest version and see what we have in store, and I really encourage you, because especially now we are preparing for a bigger launch and it's going to have significantly different capabilities. For example, if you're talking to Command Nightly right now, it's going to be very fluent in multiple languages, in over 100 languages. So it wasn't the case before. And it's just one of the versions. It's one of the differences that you are seeing with Nightly, just because it's kind of the latest version. But at some point, we are going to freeze this version, package it, ship it to different cloud partners, and have it accessible that way.
Oh, pretty cool. I think that's exciting to get these new launches that's coming up with the new updates. 100 languages is not an easy feat. So that's and to talk a bit about that. So you know the models, especially the command model, is especially kind of trained for business use cases. So summarization, copywriting, and maybe you can explain a bit the differences between maybe command model and just any generic model that anybody can find on Hugging Face, for example. What's kind of like the big difference there?
Yes. Okay. So I would say the biggest difference right now is the fact that we are training Command to have a conversation flow that interacts with different types of business data, and we optimize for this type of data. And you can see in different evaluations, there has been a benchmark about RAG performance in different models.
Yeah.
It's called, let me take a look, Lost in the Middle benchmark. So
Yes.
it's a paper that talks about how generative models keep having longer and longer context window. So technically they should be able to process all the information you give it. But most of the time, if you give it, let's say, an entire book in the context window, it's going to be really good with what's at the beginning of the book and at the end, but it's going to lose the information that's in the middle of the book. So what
Yeah.
this paper evaluates is how good the models are at capturing the information that's kind of in between, in the middle of the information. And our models Command excels at retrieving information with different modes and being able to process the entire the entire document without having this blind spots in the middle. It's also really good with the context there. So that would be number one difference. I would say that that is just really good with retrieving external information from the model, and being able to plug into different types of data that the enterprises have.
Okay.
We also put a lot of effort into being the kind of agnostic choice that is suitable for different types of setups that you have on your hands. Many of the companies are partnering with single cloud partner, for example, or with like 2 chosen cloud partners and are available only there. We're
Okay.
available across all cloud providers, and we made it our mission to stay that way and not to kind of get too friendly with any in particular. So that's why you can find us everywhere, including Oracle cloud. Like this is something that like only if you're using Oracle Cloud, and many of the enterprises are, you are being powered by, if you're using their generative AI kind of platform, you are being powered by Cohere only. So this is another difference, that we give you this option. And then we have a bunch of, I would say, first of all, the enterprises a lot of the times either go with the most secure private
Yes.
deployment they have available for the proprietary models like ours, or they go for open source and try to kind of have it on-prem and have a team that runs it on their own setup. So in this case, the differences between us and open source models like Llama would be that we really put in the effort to optimize for inference efficiency,
Okay.
so, and fine-tuning efficiency as well, so that you use much less hardware resources, much less compute, and therefore save costs and have kind of the same or even better results. So that's how we differentiate between open source and us. And on top of that, we really care about the security side of things. So we are compliant with all the regulations, and we are kind of keeping up to date with all of them. And we also put a lot of investment into being responsible AI partners.
Okay.
So outlining kind of principles in which we train the models, the type of data that we use, the type of data providers that we use, and so forth. So it's a kind of like a long list of things that we do to be really enterprise friendly. And I would say that this is the most, yeah, this is the most difference that you can find between us and other generative models out there. I think, yeah, I think it pretty much summarizes it. Let me know if you want to learn a little bit more about any of these. I'm happy to dive more.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think the coverage that you did there, we kind of going from security, and I think that's something that a lot of enterprises are very concerned about, as you mentioned, and to the point where fine tune for business use cases, business languages. I think this is some of the things that matters a lot for enterprises as well. And I think the other thing that you closed off a little bit that maybe you want to dig a little bit deeper in is fine tuning. So as we know, models sometimes struggle with maybe some nuanced niche topics or very technical things that maybe they weren't really part of their training process. So how does Cohere, first of all, are there any other Cohere models available for fine tuning? If an enterprise wants to fine tune or a developer wants to fine tune, is that something they can do? And can you maybe go over a little bit of how they would do that? Just a simple example.
Yes, absolutely. So actually, 2 of our models are available for fine-tuning: Command, the generative one, and rerank. You can also fine-tune rerank. That's a really exciting development and really requested by a lot of enterprises. That's why we have it out there. So basically, you can fine-tune it. We have a platform, we have a UI that lets you fine-tune it without using any programmatic setup. You can also fine-tune it with our Python SDK if you're using our API, with cloud partners that will be providing each like kind of individually their fine-tuning setups. But essentially we are fine-tunable everywhere. with command and with rerank. And so the way it works is you, roughly speaking, need to prepare a training data set.
Okay.
Why do you fine tune? You fine tune because you start to use the model and you find out that it doesn't necessarily give you the performance that you need with prompting only, because it doesn't have a specific style that you want, the conversation style, or it doesn't have some domain relevant knowledge like medical. You told me that you have a medical background, so there's so much lingo there that the general pre-training won't cover, but the fine-tuning will. So what you want to do is, if you're building a chatbot for medical personnel and you wanted to have a specific vocabulary, you're preparing a data set that has, let's say, 200 examples of question and answer of conversation flow that you would have with such personnel, that includes this language, so that the model can kind of learn it again with the fine-tuning process. So you need a data set that has the examples that you want. It could be question answer pairs or prompt output, input output kind of prompt completion pairs. It could be a continuation of a certain text. It could be conversational flow that it's good for longer conversations and for specific style that you want. There are kind of these different types of fine tuning. There's also human preference feedback. So that is when model outputs something and humans assess it and decide whether it's optimal or not. And then model learns from that feedback over time. So yes, so you need the data set. You need to have a bunch of examples for the model to train on. Model trains on it, and then once it's trained on, you can consider it ready for the challenge that you have for it, and you can start using it just like you would use the model before. So you give it an input and expect an output that already has been improved by this process. That's roughly how it works. There's a lot of iteration coming into fine-tuning. You need to make sure that your data is balanced, that it takes a lot of refinement to create a good data set for fine-tuning, but we have guidelines for that. Sometimes it also takes some hyperparameter tweaking for fine-tuning, so some of the layers need to be tweaked. So it depends, I would say, on the case-by-case basis, but roughly this is what it is, and we provide a lot of options there. So yeah, especially when you want to kind of like dabble in it, you should check out our UI that essentially lets you just drop all the examples that you have for fine-tuning in a CSV file, and then fine-tune the model by clicking a button, and then use the model via UI as well, which is a really good first testing ground for fine-tuned model. Yeah.
Pretty cool. So that's it makes it much easier, and I think I like the evolution so far. I mean, the past couple of years, everything has changed a lot. From fine tuning wasn't something that you could do on the interface. Now it's super straightforward. So that's pretty cool. And so I know we kind of getting close to the end here, but maybe I want to give you a moment here to touch on maybe embed V3 and re-ranking model, just to kind of go over just a little bit what those are and what they do in very briefly.
Okay, awesome. So both Embed and rerank are text representation models. As I mentioned, they translate words and sentences into numeric representations, and they are both being used a lot in semantic search, but they are also used in retrieval augmented generation. Basically, when you have a retrieval of information, Embed and rerank can be helpful. The way it works is Embed, you use Embed on top of the information that you want the model to get back to kind of later on. So so let's say we have a bunch of documents, medical documents. Let's keep to the example.
Yes.
You create embeddings, you create these numeric representations for all of the documents to be searched. They are being stored in something called vector database. It's like a specific database to store these numeric representations. And so they are ready for you there. The step number 2 is you are looking for something. You are having a question about this new medical equipment that just came, and we just embedded all the documents about this new medical equipment. We want to find out whether there are any. Okay, I'm gonna just freestyle here. Whether there are any potential,
Maybe upgrades.
warnings about.
Yeah.
Yes, like potential warnings about whether how you should prepare to be using this medical equipment. So you're asking a question, how should I be using this equipment? And this question is called query in search system. So you embed this query. So you also create the numeric representation. You embed then is able to compare the query to the entire database, the entire kind of documentation that we gave it, and it's looking for the closest semantic connection between the two. Yes, it's looking for the relevance between the two, and it's going to connect this query with the most relevant fragment of the documentation, and then based on that probably pass it to generative model, and that model will formulate the response in a chatbot. Basically, Embed is really helpful when it comes to looking through a lot of data that is that can be static. It can be dynamic, so you would have to perform kind of embedding on top of any dynamic data in the future. But it's really good at once you have the data that's embedded and you have the query that's embedded, it's really good at building systems that let you perform Q&A on long documents, or perform RAG on long documents, or perform RAG on honestly any type of information.
Yeah.
Rerank, on the other hand, is this model that, let's say we have this question about the documentation. It's being embedded, it's being compared to all the embeddings that we have in the database, and then we have a bunch of options that are being returned as an output. So what rerank does is it looks at document snippets that seem to be semantically most semantically relevant to the query, and then it reorders it based on the based on the relevance of the results. So what rerank does is, out of all of the semantically relevant things that the embeddings that are embeddings that the system retrieves, rerank will reorder them and then output the, let's say, out of top 100 semantically relevant things, it will output top 100, where the top 3 are like the closest to what you need. So what rerank does is it really enhances the final result of the search. And the good thing about rerank is also that it can be used with legacy search systems. So you don't have to embed anything. You can just, if you have a keyword-based system in your organization, you can apply rerank on top of it, and it's going to perform the re-ranking on top of the retrieved results as well, kind of looking for the semantic relevance and then output the closest. So it's a really relatively easy way to improve your search performance without even changing kind of the entire foundation of embedding anything if you're not familiar with embeddings, if you haven't done it in the past. So that's in a nutshell. What's new with Embed v3 is that it comes, the latest thing that it does is, normally what embeddings do is they are looking for topic similarity. So let's say we're asking for the medical equipment and you're getting, you are getting answers based off of medical equipment topic. So if anything, if there's anything that talks about medical equipment, it will probably be closer and will be retrieved by the system. But there are data sets, and especially most of the data sets are messy. It's not like you have a data set that has documents that you can that are kind of good to go, and whatever answer you retrieve is a good one. You are going to have data that is messy, that is incomplete, that has low quality, for example. And we've been training, we've been looking at Embed v3 performance on data sets that have information about COVID-19 and different papers, different publications about COVID-19. And it's a good example because COVID-19 created like a lot of scientific publications, and they have varying degree of quality about the information that they contain. So the new thing, and that's a pretty major difference with Embed v3, is that it's able to look at the quality of the information and choose the top quality and retrieve that as a result. So if you have noisy data, and noisy is basically messy, it's going to look for the top quality data within that data set and then help you retrieve it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's very important because we deal with messy data all the time, and let me not call it messy. Maybe call it noisy data. So being able to sift through that and find the needle in the haystack, and kind of find those really really cool, I guess, the top results that you're probably looking for. I think that's a very cool thing to add on to there. So yeah, I think that's been a really good summary of the models that Cohere offers and how they work. And we've seen the demos. I think this has been a really good session, just kind of to see the full length of it. And just to kind of wrap up here as we get to the end, I just want to maybe give you a moment as well to just kind of reflect a bit for us. And this is on your journey and experiences so far, and what you found the most rewarding, and from being non-traditional to now being in developer relations, especially in AI. And also maybe you can share some few resources that have helped you a lot in this journey to your career path to technology. And yeah, we just want to learn a bit more about you there.
Okay, so when it comes to the reflections, I just keep being very stimulated by how the field progresses. I feel like every day brings new advancements on the model side of things, but also new types of applications and partnerships. The cool thing is that once we've started with LLMs, only startups were brave enough to use them. But then progressively enterprises warmed up to it, and now all the companies around the world are looking at LLMs and implementing some sort of generative AI within. And so you can see more and more interesting implementations of that. That's why I showed you a couple of examples where, maybe it's not as sexy as like AI agent that helps you do your stocks or whatever, but it's very relevant. The Coda example that I showed is a very relevant example of how we could use chat on top of different databases and kind of retrieve information in a more humane, friendly way. So yeah, I think, and also I think that curiosity about just like how the ecosystem shapes is really fueled by the fact that I like to jump in between things and also come from a different background, and I keep asking questions because I keep not understanding what's happening. So it's just been very interesting that way. So there's tons of resources that I would recommend. First of all, Discord servers of different communities, AI communities. At Cohere, we have a Discord server where you can talk to people that are entering the LLM space or are already a little bit advanced and are willing to share with you the wisdom that they've accrued through the
Yes.
hardships of brute forcing. So Discord servers for sure. Look for Discord servers for any type of tech that you're interested in. A blog of these types of tech is a usually very good resource to understand what is the state of research in a given company and also the types of applications that are out there. Twitter is a fabulous source of information about demos and trends and latest papers in the space. I learn a lot about latest papers from X, from X lately.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that helped me the most at the beginning was Jay Alamar's, my colleagues at Cohere, blog about transformer paper. So LLMs
Right.
have this one of the fundamental pieces for every LLM, whether it's generation model or representation embedding model, is that they have the architecture called transformer, and it comes from, it's like 5 years old, 6 years old maybe already, and it comes from a paper. Our CEO is the co-founder our CEO is the co-author of this paper called Attention is All You Need. He used to be at Google Brain when he was coming up with this architecture with his colleagues. And so it's such a crucial kind of piece of understanding of on very high abstract level of what is the magic behind the generative side of things? Like how do the models do that they are able to predict so well what should be the next sentence in a sequence, what should be the next word in a sequence, etc. So if you're interested in kind of the science behind the magic of LLMs,
Yeah.
Jay Alamar's blog really nicely outlines what transformer architecture is, and he's really good with visuals as well. So he's breaking it down. At the moment, what I'm learning the most from is Luis Serrano's YouTube channel, because he dives really deep on different algorithms, like reinforcement learning with human feedback, like things like that. So I really recommend that as well. And all of us, the DevRel team at Cohere, we are working on the huge all-encompassing course called LLMU, so Large Language Model University. And it's both theory of transformers, text generation, text representation, and practice. So example apps, we actually created a repository of, I think, like 20 different apps that you can build that are just basically like a recipe of how to get your LLM app going using
Yep.
Streamlit, actually. So that's a really good resource to share
Nice.
with your folks. And there are like
Yeah.
invoice information extractors, multilingual search, like all sorts of cool things. So you should definitely check that one out as well.
Awesome. Those are some really awesome resources. Yeah, I've seen a little bit about the LLMU, and it's a really good resource to just kind of learn from the foundations to the advanced level, and some really interesting resources you've shared as well from the foundation model paper. Attention is everything. I think it's probably one of the most famous papers out there in AI space. And I agree with you as well with X being kind of like the real-time information with what's breaking, what's new, and some companies are also announcing, releasing their models on there, announcing, hey, we just released this. So it's pretty neat to see kind of where people go to gather information and learn, and to see what you've used, and being able to share that with folks. So yeah, thank you for that. And to just kind of close it out as well, I would just want to give you this moment to maybe share any final thoughts, or give us directions on where, for folks that are maybe interested more in your work, to where they could go, or as well, I know you shared a bit about Cohere, but you can share some of your links as well. We can share some of your links on your podcast, and some of the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, awesome. So definitely the podcast would be the latest thing that I'm focused on, and also my YouTube channel. I really hope to ramp up my production of videos that are short explainers about the most relevant tools or frameworks that are in the space this year. For now, you can really count on my podcast. It's both on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're a listener, I like to listen to podcasts while I'm in the gym, so I don't watch necessarily things. But there is also a video version on YouTube channel, and on YouTube channel, I'm publishing videos about anything that seems to be interesting and the most relevant thing at the moment. So you should check that one out. You are also most welcome to connect with me on all socials. I have the same handle for all socials. It's Sandra Kubik. And I love getting in touch with folks that are working on something, are trying to get into the space, and hopefully help them out to navigate for the next best step moving forward. So feel free to connect with me that way and follow my journey that way as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. It was so nice to have you today. Thank you again for joining us today and sharing a lot about Cohere and yourself. So thank you. Really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you for joining us today on this episode of Streamlit Live, and follow us on LinkedIn to get all the updates on future live streams that we'll be hosting. And with that, I just want to say happy streaming. Goodbye.